Want to learn how to sew or get into upcycling your own clothes? Well, in today's video, I'll be showing you 10 tools that you'll need to get started. When starting out, you really don't need any fancy equipment. You really only need the bare minimum. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll see these are things I list all the time as my materials used. There are many varieties on the market, so I'm going to go a little in depth into each one so you'll know what to look for and what to consider when shopping. To also cut out the guesswork for you, I'll have links to everything mentioned below this video. The seam ripper is a tool every sewer loves to hate, but it's necessary for undoing stitches. Like when you make a mistake or you simply want to deconstruct something. It's designed with a point which catches the threads and a curved blade for cutting them. The red ball point is for protecting your fabric during the process. The smaller one is good for ripping smaller stitches. The cap fits nicely over the handle so you won't lose it and you'll have something to grip onto. The larger ones are great for larger stitches and hems and tend to have a much better grip. But the cap doesn't always fit over the handle or at all, so you risk losing it. That may be a deal breaker for some, so it really comes down to personal preference. You could maybe hold off on getting this if you own a regular clear ruler. However, I highly recommend this one because the grid pattern makes it so much easier to make straight cutting or seam lines, so you get more accurate measurements. It's also perfect for drawing parallel and perpendicular lines when drafting patterns. A tape measure is primarily used for taking body measurements among other things. Here we have a few different types. We have one that is retractable, which makes it great for traveling, but it isn't practical for your everyday sewing needs. This one, however, is the one I recommend for that. It's reinforced with fiberglass, so it's very durable and unlikely to stretch out over time. As you can tell, I've had this one for a really long time. This one may look similar to the previous one, but it's lacking in quality. It's very flimsy and much softer, which means it won't last. So those are just a couple things to look out for. A good pair of sharp scissors makes all the difference when cutting. Here we have two different types and a thread snipper. The thread snipper does as its name suggests. It's handy for quickly snipping threads when you don't want to lug around your fabric scissors. Speaking of scissors, these are a good quality pair at a great price point. They're ergonomically designed and have a nice weight to them. I've had these for years and you can see the handle is slowly chipping away, but if you're on a budget, these are a great pair for beginners. I included these fully chrome plated shears because they're currently my go-to. They easily cut through layers of fabric like butter. They are, however, on the heavier side and a little pricier, but if you want a pair that's built to last and you're serious about sewing, then go with these. Just a quick FYI, don't use your fabric scissors to cut anything else. They'll get dull and it's not easy sharpening them once that happens. So have maybe an old pair or an expensive one handy for paper, trims, etc. They're one of the smallest sewing tools, but they make a big impact. They're great for temporarily holding things in place, such as fabrics, trims, and patterns while cutting or even sewing. They're also used during fittings. They come in various lengths and thicknesses as different fabrics require different types. These are just a few common ones. Extra fine pins are ideal for delicate lightweight fabrics, while the dressmaker ones are good for medium to heavy weights. The ball points, on the other hand, are specifically for jersey and knits. As a beginner, delicate fabrics and knits aren't fabrics you need to worry about right now, so I recommend the dressmaker, also known as the all-purpose pins. The other type of sewing pin commonly used is the safety pin. They're really versatile, so it's a good idea to have an assortment of sizes on hand. Same goes for hand needles. Some projects may require some hand sewing, such as hemming, basting, or mending holes. Different projects, fabrics, and threads call for different needles. A pin cushion is helpful for storing your pins and needles and making pinning more efficient. The most iconic one is a tomato. The attached strawberry isn't just for decoration, but it's actually filled with an abrasive powder called emery for sharpening your pins and needles. Personally, I only occasionally use it for needles since most modern pins and needles are plated. The other alternative is the magnetic holder. Some sewers prefer this as you simply toss your pins on it rather than having to stick them back into the cushion. That and because it's great for picking up loose pins. They're specifically made for fabrics and are needed for temporarily marking cutting or seam lines and pattern markings. There are pens, markers, pencils, and chalks. Choosing the right one for you takes trial and error, as what may work on one fabric may not work on another. As a beginner, a basic one like the tailor's chalk is all you need. This classic marking tool comes in various colors and is easy to remove, but it is delicate and can get messy. You can also get it with a holder or in pencil form like the one shown here, which may be easier to use. Whichever you choose, always test it on a scrap of fabric first to ensure it's removable. Threads are an important part of sewing as no project would be complete without them. Like a lot of things on this list, there are many types with each serving a specific purpose. Something I did when starting out was get 2 spools of all-purpose threads in black and white. I used the black for dark fabrics and white for those on the lighter side. As I got more serious about sewing, I gradually added other colors. If you don't want to go that route and would prefer an assortment of colors, then I'd recommend a thread set. I've had this set for almost 5 years and it's been such a lifesaver that I rarely do need to buy threads except for those one-off colors. It was given to me as a gift, so I'm not sure where it's from, but I'll link to a similar one below from a brand that I highly recommend. An iron and ironing board is something most households already have. It's really important to press your work as you sew, as it can prevent problems like fitting issues or the overall finish of your project. If you don't own an ironing board or have the space for one, consider getting a tabletop. An ideal iron for sewing is one that carries some weight, has a steam setting plus variable temperatures for different fabrics, and an automatic shut-off feature. But whatever you do have, use that for now. A sewing machine by far is the biggest expense. Thankfully, nowadays, you can find great entry-level sewing machines for under $100. This is one I've personally used. It's lightweight, easy to use, and has several features that you won't find too overwhelming. It's also capable of handling bigger projects. Now, if you want something tougher that can power through all types of fabrics and layers, then I'd say save up a bit more and get a heavy-duty machine like this one. It's great to grow with you as you advance and tackle more challenging projects. You'll need a couple other things along with your machine, which I can't get into today. So to go along with these tools, there's one more thing I'd like to add to the list, and that is... Now I included sewing lessons because all these tools would be useless to you if you don't put them to good use or know how to use them properly. Your tools alone won't make you a great sewer. They're only half the equation. The other half is putting in the work and practicing. We have the internet at our disposal today, so you can find just about anything online these days. However, I recommend not just watching online tutorials, but get some hands-on help. Go online or ask around about classes in your area. Even better if you have a family or friend that's a seasoned sewer that could show you the ins and outs of a sewing machine. So my advice to you would be get a feel for it, see if it's something you want to get into, and then you can start investing in other equipment. The last thing you want to do is get all this equipment and it turns out it's not for you. That's all I have for you today. Let me know below if there's anything that you would add to the list, if you're a beginner or a seasoned sewer, and if you found this video helpful.